everybody. It is Thursday, February 27th. I'm Jane Just with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Comos, and welcome to the Victoria Real Estate Show with
Everybody, Andrew Plank here with for the page. Good to be here.
and Vibin
Ivan.
And Jen Lowe, mortgage broker with DLC Modern Mortgage Group. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, you too.
We're working on our intro. Okay.
It's only been a couple years. No big deal. We'll get it eventually. Yeah. It's going well. Busy. Definitely starting to pick up. A lot of stuff to juggle. Spring is sprung.
I feel like spring is sprung in our market. How about you, Jen?
Yes. Yep. Lots of pre-approvals, rate holds. There is a bit of uncertainty right now just with this tariff threat here, but we can talk about that more in a bit.
Okay, yeah, I do have a question about that. Let's get on with the show. All right, so it's Thursday, February 27th, and we're going to just talk about why the listing price matters so much. And I will say, we started out the week with our team. We got 13 offers on a property.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's because we listed it well. And we weren't sure going in what, with the tariffs and all that stuff, what was going to be happening. So we wanted to make sure we were set up well.
You wanted a strong, quick sale, or at least your client did, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So if you do like the show, please like us. Click like right now. Those people who are watching, don't forget to subscribe to us if you want more information. We are on YouTube, and also comment, please. We love to hear your feedback, and don't forget to share it with somebody who might be buying or selling. Okay, Andrew,
yes. So today is February 27th, and we had 310 new listings come on in the last week. That's a fair number. It's a pretty big number. We had 149 properties go pending. We had 96 properties decrease in price. So again, price sensitivity is a thing in the marketplace. 3 properties increased in price for some reason. 1 property came back to market. 130 sold. 26 expired unsold. Those people were unsuccessful with their listing and getting their price. 1 property was withdrawn.
So, relatively speaking, it does feel like there's more activity on the market. Pending listings are a little higher, but we're still not. It doesn't look like we're at the 50% quite yet. What do you think?
Like 50% list to sell now, but
yeah,
it's improving. And I do expect, the number of listings we're going to see every week go up just because it's springtime and people have been waiting, but also the number of sales increasing every week as well, other than maybe that big question mark about tariffs.
Right. Oh, well. So we had this discussion yesterday with one of my clients, and I was saying, you can only work with what's happening at the moment. So just don't put yourself in a position where you're at risk. But plan accordingly. And this is why the listing price matters so much.
Well, I had that same conversation yesterday with someone who was asking me about my thoughts on the market. I said, you can look to what the future might hold and make some guesses, but you really need to take action based on the reality of the moment, what's happening in this moment, because you just never know what the future is going to hold truly. So you've got to just deal with, this is what the market is now. What it's going to be tomorrow could be anything, really. Yeah.
Oh, did I do that?
You did.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so let's do the stats for the past week. These are put out by the board on a weekly basis on Mondays. So in February 2025, last week we had 272 net unconditional sales. So we're up to 401 this week. So that's for the whole month. That's compared to 470 for 2024. So we have, 6 days left in the market. I think we're going to beat it. 605 new listings so far last week. And then this week we're up to 868. So exactly what you were saying. We were at 1088 last year. So I'm not sure if we're going to beat that. And total active listings. Last year we were at 2364, and last week we were at 2487. We're up 2544. So the market is brisk, I think.
I mean, it's all about supply demand. You know, the more active listings we have, the more selection there is for buyers, but also at some point, we don't want to have too much inventory because that just tells us that buyers aren't picking up what the sellers are putting down. So, but this number around this 2,500 mark is definitely not over. You know, we still could use more inventory, and I'm finding my buyers are. I have a number of buyers still waiting for the right home to come along. It's not like they have, you know, abundant choice.
Right. Exactly. Okay. I put together this. We had a bit of a technical difficulty. So we're talking about why it's so important for sellers to price right, but I also wanted to focus on the buyer strategy. So there's 5 elements to the offer, and these are price, condition. Sorry, today's just one of those freaking days. Price, deposit, dates, inclusions,
Terms
and
terms and conditions.
So
Yeah.
interesting enough, we had 13 offers on a property this week because we did price. It was a 10 out of 10 property, and we did price very well. We didn't accept the full price offer initially right off the bat. We waited.
Hold up. You say you had 13 offers, and was there only one that was full price?
No, but the first one came in, so we forwarded it to the seller, and the seller's like, "It's just full price."
Oh, okay.
And I was
I
like,
see what you're saying.
Yeah, so we priced it maybe 5% under asking, under what we thought was the market value. Jen?
What do you mean by 10 out of 10 property? So just like it showed
Gorgeous.
well. Okay.
So this
Yeah.
property is now unconditional. We're talking about a property you can.
Well,
speak
I
to this
can't
stuff.
disclose we'll find out today what whether or not it goes unconditional, but I just want to say, so there were 13 offers, but one was had one condition, which was the highest price offer, and the other one had no conditions,
Mhm.
which was just slightly less.
Okay, and right, and so they took the one with conditions because you're saying it's still conditional.
No, they took the unconditional one that was priced slightly less.
Okay, but it's still within the rescission period. Is that why we're not talking about price and such? Okay.
Yeah.
So folks, even with an unconditional offer these days, there's the ability for the buyers to rescind and walk away by paying 0.25% of the offer price. So this is why Jane is being a little bit cagey about what she's sharing. It's just a little bit early to talk about what the end result was here.
But it's so important to what's happening this week, right? The fact is that your pricing has to be right on this week because, as I said, we can't talk about the market in general. I'm just saying that your pricing, just be very careful with your pricing because there are a lot of buyers who are very motivated right now, enough for them to go back into multiple offers. And so with pricing, we priced it just below. We priced at a place where we felt that we would get a lot of activity.
People feel they're going to get a good deal.
If you want a quick sale, that's the way to go about it. It is best, that strategy works best when you do have a 9 out of 8, 9, 10 out of 10 property. 6 or 7 out of 10 property is probably, even if it's underpriced, it's not going to generate the multiple offers and the above asking price you were hoping for, even if you're priced under market. So there's a lot of discussion and strategy there, but I do know though that people are, you know, coming into spring, and there's definitely counter strategy of, I don't want to underprice it. I'm not too sure where the market is right now because it sort of fluctuates. I'm not saying I don't know, but I'm saying this is what the sellers, they don't have confidence in themselves that they're not going to underprice it and not get their price. So the other side of that is people sometimes do price a little high and watch for activity. And my repeating message to those people is, that's fine. Let's try for top dollar. Let's try for above market, even if that's what you want to do. But if you're not getting the activity you anticipated because you thought that everyone would come knocking your door down, because you thought you went above what I'd recommended as the price, let's make a quick course correction and adjust to get it to market. Because if you want to sell it, that pool of buyers experiencing that property right off the bat are your best and your first and best chance of getting it sold. After a week on market, it's stale. It's been exposed. Everybody's seen it.
Yeah. Well, that being said, it was interesting because so the property was on the market for 8 days, and which felt long. We talked about it last week during the show, and there were people obviously just coming to market as buyers at the end of last week, and they're like, "Can I get in? Can I get in?" And the sellers just had a little baby. And so they were like, we're going to be done Sunday at 4 p.m. And I got so many calls. We specifically didn't do an open house because the sellers wanted qualified buyers with realtors going through. And we got quite a few buyers who were, can I get in? Can I get in? Can I get in? I'm like, call your realtor. I don't want to bother my realtor. Well, that's going to be 2 viewings. So call your realtor and get in, because we know we're getting a lot of activity. If you want to make a decision, it's going to have to be quick. You just getting in and previewing without your realtor isn't going to be a good strategy. So, because then I have to arrange the appointment for the realtor as well. And plus, we didn't want to get into dual agency with anybody.
No.
So anyway, I'm just saying, and while I'm chatting with you right now, I'm in multiple offers as a buyer on a property that is priced way high.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been on the market for a while and it's immaculate. And the listing agent managed to generate a second offer. So the market is picking up. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so in terms of pricing homes, we just went through the elements of an offer. And so it's not always about price. There's other elements. But when it comes to pricing, price is important. Obviously, if you're a buyer making an offer to the seller, if it's just new on market, they probably have, pitched their expectations on the listing price. If it's been on market for a while, you might be able to be making an offer. You're more likely to be able to make an offer off the listing price and get the seller to be a little bit more amenable. You never know, though. It's hard to know motivation from the outside looking in, but we can usually make some pretty good educated guesses of what's going on. But anything we want to say about price from the buyer's perspective? We're talking about from both buyer and seller's perspective here. Full disclosure, guys, Jane came up with this topic, so parachuted in and I
think for the buyer, it's discouraging. They're trying to avoid the multiple offers, so they see a reasonably priced home and they're gonna submit an offer because it's reasonably priced. So that's the thing, is you wanna price it where you can't not write on it because it's a good price. But it's discouraging, I think.
The sellers into account here. I mean, we do a market analysis. We give them what we believe the market price value is. They'll make a decision around what they're going to sell it for. And we know, I mean, it's true of anything that you're putting out on the shelf for sale. Price is a factor for some people, for most people. And so, of course, all things being equal, the lower the price relative to what others are priced for, the more desire there's going to be for it.
Yes.
So, generating multiple offers is great, but it also creates a bit of a churn in the market too. Like you were having all of these people calling you and, hey, can I get in? Hey, can I get in? Can I get in? It does create that scarcity and that hope springs eternal of, oh, I maybe can buy this home at actually undervalued because it's asking this, and everything else I've seen that looks like it is, another $100,000 higher. So I better get in there and maybe I can make my offer and get it. But unfortunately, that's probably not the case. It's creating kind of a false hope for people.
It only works when you have adequate. It only works for the seller when you have adequate exposure. But there are listings, and I always say to buyers, there's times during the year when other people aren't looking, like during a snowstorm or heavy rains, when people don't want to go out. Like it does happen where there's just a lack of activity, and so a buyer can come
Canada
in
Day, any holiday, realtors or maybe have decided to go off with their family and actually take a day off, and so you get that offer in with a realtor who's got no life, and maybe you have a better chance of doing that. But yeah, Jane has no life, so give Jane a call.
I have no life. Yeah. So from a buyer perspective, I would say, put your offer in, because it does, like, not everybody sells for the highest price. That's not what they're going for. That's what I'm trying to say. What do you think, Jen?
Well, yeah, it just depends on the market and depends on the individual circumstances. No two situations are the same for why people are selling or why people are buying.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly know that buyers going into the multiple offer situation, there's certain times where buyers are just not accepting of that because they see it as a strategy rather than a element of the market. When it's an element of the market, in other words, prices are going up so rapidly, it's difficult to price a home, and it's not been artificially orchestrated to create multiple offers. It's just there's a number of listings coming on, and the market just keeps overpassing them in terms of price point. That means buyers really want to make that work. But when buyers are feeling like they've been played, like this is just something that's been orchestrated to get them to the table to bring the market price up, they're going to be a little more resistant on that.
To be honest, we didn't price expecting the offer we received.
Mm-hmm.
We priced because the sellers had a little baby and 2 kids, and they had to get it sold quickly. It was too painful for them to be on the market for a long time. That's the reason why it was priced the way it was. And then we got enormous activity. So,
yeah.
People are like, you're just digging us for the money. We're not. We're doing it because we want to meet the sellers, in this case, the seller's needs.
This is all part of the conversation that and this goes into the pricing point, is pricing is part of the picture. And we talked about the elements of an offer, but the metric that goes into pricing a home is also the motivation of the seller and what are the requirements that the seller has in their expectations. And we're going to have a conversation with them and talk about, this is what happens if you price it under market. You have a chance of actually getting market or above market pricing by pricing under market if you can get enough of a feeding frenzy. But you also risk selling it under market if you get nobody coming to the table.
Yeah.
So do you want to take that gamble? Versus, going above above market and hoping that 1 or 2 unicorn buyers that really loves that area and wants that particular style of home pops in and doesn't question the price. And then there's just the let's do business price.
Apparently, there were people who had offered on properties much higher who came in and offered on this property because they thought it was so reasonable. It wasn't the product they were looking for initially, but because they just fell in love with the decor. It was so well done. Like in any market, a really nice home is going to sell well. Just goes to speak to that.
Yeah. And that's why, again, it's not always about price, folks. And in a market where everybody is buying anything, and anything is selling, you can sell that rundown home on a busy street that needs a new roof and is dated and so forth. And that home will sell and every home will sell. But if you're buying that home, you got to think about what happens when the market is slower, because it's not always about price either. I mean, price will be the thing that sells that home. It's going to sell for much less than other homes when the market is slower.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
will say, when I'm sure you do this too, when we show a property and it's a shack or it's on a busy road, I have no trouble saying to somebody, listen, I think this has terrible resale value. I don't think it would be a good purchase for you. Or if you're not handy and you want to buy something that needs a lot of repair, this is going to be a lot of work for you. So I have clients who did buy at the height of the market because they had to buy, and we're sitting on those properties waiting for them to sell. Yep.
Yeah. And you say because they had to buy, they bought at the height of the market because they had to buy, but we are mere mortals as well. We can't tell when we're at the height of the market. And I also had buyers who bought at the height of the market. And it looked at the time like the market was going to continue going and continue going and continue going. It was going gangbusters and had been for a while. So it's really hard to know when the tap turns off and be able to predict that. So there's always that hope that what you buy for today, the market will continue going up beyond. And even if there's a correction later, it doesn't come down to where you bought. But unfortunately, some people do get caught at the top.
So it's funny because I met with a realtor when I was in Peterborough area visiting family in Ontario, and he was saying that quite a few of his clients actually got caught at the end of COVID with buying before selling. But it was interesting. I was watching a realtor who's been in the business 40 years, and I was like, what's he doing? What's he doing? Because he's been through so much. And he said to me, as soon as they start to open up with COVID, that's when the market's going to go down, because then the security of housing isn't needed as much. So we were trying to be like, where the pricing low doesn't work is when you have a property that's not a 10 out of 10, but B, the market is falling. And so you have to be careful. And it's how it presents. So in some cases, I remember in 2007 being with clients who said to me, I want to price below market value because I wanted to create a rush. And I was too green a realtor to know how to do that. Right.
In a falling market, it actually is a good strategy to price under the market. And I'll give you an example, because I had a listing. I've got another one coming up soon in the same townhouse complex, but I had a listing in a townhouse complex that the market analysis came in around closer to 800, even a little bit above.
Yep.
The market was slowing down and starting to fall and getting more open and more open. I gave my market analysis. I actually recommended a price, but they went a little higher. And then the market came down, continued to go down. And I suggested, again, a price, and they came in a little higher. And we just kept staying above the market until we reached the bottom of the market. And somebody came along and made an offer. And at this point, the sellers were tired of trying to sell it and tired of being on market for a long time. And they ended up taking a price that was about $100,000 under the original asking price. Where if they had priced just a little below the market at the time that we listed it in real time, they would have sold for probably $75,000 more than they got.
Yes, it's because they're selling at what they want rather than what they need. So it's always hard as a listing agent in that case, because you're trying to tell somebody, listen, you're priced too high. And the seller's like, you don't believe in me. That's how the seller takes it. You don't believe in me and my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really important. Yeah. You know what? That was a lesson that I, repeatedly learned as a newer agent, that, people do not want to hear rational, real, this is what I'm seeing, even keel stats. They want you to come in and say, you know what, this is a lovely home and this is going to sell really quickly. And I'm really, really excited about selling it for you. And that's what they're looking for. And unfortunately, there's some song and dance to that, which I don't really like. I would really, and I do want to be realistic with clients. And so I've got now the part of my preamble with my clients is to say, look, I'm going to work really hard for the price that you decide on. But, it's really important to know that, don't pick the agent just because they're excited about your home, so they think you can get more for it. Or they're telling you just how great your home is when your home is great and it's got these wonderful, unique features. But all homes have wonderful, unique features, just different ones, So people don't really always get it. And it's hard to balance that with sellers who are trying to make an educated, good decision to sell their home. It's such a big decision.
Yep. Jen?
It gets challenging too with people like that. Oh, well, my neighbor, their property sold, a year ago for 1.2 million, and the market's changed since then. From what I see on the lender standpoint and with appraisals, it gets tricky because the comparable properties are properties that have sold within 90 days, not, a year ago, and not properties that are currently listed for sale. So that's always
Yeah.
the key thing that I'm having to explain as well.
So it's interesting when I was doing market analysis and I was doing something for Remax. I was doing a presentation on how to do a market analysis. So when I first got into real estate and the market was relatively fast, I would go back 6 months. So I do current, pending, sold, and go back 6 months. And during COVID, I'm like, current, pending, last 15 days.
Yeah.
And now I do current, pending to 30, and I don't do sold because I want to know exactly what's happening with the market right now. And if I'm doing current, pending means it was got an offer, we know the price, but it hasn't actually completed yet. That is the most accurate value of the property. Yep.
Do you use the housing price index tool?
No.
No. Okay. So you know what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and folks, there's a housing price index tool that that actually Canadian Real Estate Association uses and our local board uses, and essentially takes an imaginary home, kind of in an area. Every home in every area is different. Their home that they use is the example, but they take that imaginary home, just like the consumer price index. They take a basket of goods, and they track its value over time. And so you can look at a graph and you can see what, for let's say a condo in the Royal Oak area, is doing in terms of value on this perfect home or this idealized home. And what you can then do is kind of track that against the other sales that have happened in the past. So it allows me to open up, go a little bit further back into the past when I'm looking at things, because I can say, okay, the market's been pretty stable here for the last 6 months to a year, so I can actually look at older comparables because the market hasn't been bouncing around a lot. Or the market's definitely higher than it was a year ago, but I can look at that sale from a year ago and kind of extrapolate from that sale what it might have been today. So I'll use that sometimes just to kind of, we don't always have a lot of comparables to look at in that. I always think about proximity in time, ideally, but if we don't have it, I use the HPI, proximity in place and proximity in kind of how similar is the property.
I'm looking at the trends over time. I mean, so do I look at HPI? Yes. Do I really factor that into the price? No. Am I good at pricing? Yes. So, it works for me to figure out I think the main thing is, what is the motivation of the buyer who's going to buy the property?
This is a piece I think a lot of people don't get. And one of the conversations I have with sellers is, we're not trying to sell to the general public. You know, you've got a home here that got a listing that allows pets. The floors are a little bit beaten up; they're wooden floors, but allows pets, and it has a walkout front. And you know, when we think about the buyer for this particular property, it's probably going to be a dog owner, right? And I said to my client, you know, this property is, we're not trying to sell to everyone in Victoria. We're trying to sell to this segment of the market because this is your most likely buyer. And so let's market to that most likely buyer. That's where you're going to get your most value because they're going to see the value of this particular uniqueness of this particular unit. And they're not going to care about the floors being a little scuffed up.
Yeah.
And
the HPI is very wide. Figuring out who the buyer is. So it's interesting going through this with other agents. When I'm working with new agents, I really like to see how they figure out who the buyer is and how they come up with their pricing. So we each do a market analysis separately, and then we come together. And so it's just interesting to see how the numbers play out. And did I tell you? So I called up a seller who asked me for a market analysis last summer. I gave them the number, and which was where the market was. I called them up this year. They're like, we don't want to use you because you didn't believe in the value of our house last year. And I'm like, well, the value of your house this year is here. And I have a buyer, and they're like, we have an agent. I'm like, perfect. So I called the agent up and I showed the property, and we didn't come in with an offer, but the buyer was sufficiently impressed to realize where the value was now. Right. But it all depends on what's going on in the market right now. That's how you price.
Yeah. You really can't price for the future because, you know, people try to do that and they're gambling. That's all they're doing.
Yeah.
It can change. It can go in the opposite direction. Yeah. Jen's nodding. And
well, same thing from an interest rate standpoint. I've recently had some clients that got an amazing variable rate in the fall. And now I'm quoting the current variable rate spreads. So you get whether it's prime minus 0.9 or it's prime minus 0.4, you know, the spreads have decreased since the fall, and the market's changed.
Yeah. Okay. So actually.
So let's go back. So we were talking about pricing. Do you have more slides? And I just, you know, was thinking, it is really, really, I think the failing point of a lot of buyers and sellers is, and especially the buyers is thinking, and sellers is thinking, they need to time this to get the absolute best price, whether that's the seller getting the highest or the buyer getting the lowest, and they're trying to play the market. And they do this, and consistently I find those people are the ones that sit on the fence, wait way too long, until they're in a situation where they're either forced to buy or sell because they've lost their window of opportunity, and now they're no longer getting to take advantage of things. Buy when you see the right home, especially buyers. Hey folks, like, getting a deal is not as important as getting the right home. It's true. So key. You're gonna maybe save yourself $20,000, $40,000, $50,000. You're gonna be divorced in 6 months because you didn't buy a home that works for you and your family. You know,
so funny you say that. We go through houses all the time, right? Like I don't know, maybe we see 20 or 30 houses a week max, and depending on the client, I saw 12 on Monday. Anyway, so we're going through, we immediately see the value of the houses and the finishing. And so first of all, always show the best house last because it shows the value of the house in terms of the finishing. So they realize, but also we're looking at what is it? How long do you want to live in that house? So if you're going to buy a middle of the road home where there is a lot of choice, and you can buy one beside the highway, or you could buy one in a community area, or you could buy one right beside a school. We're in there. Everything is equal. It's location that matters more than anything. Right. So with a lot of choice.
Further to the point on pricing, there's a lot of folks out there who say, oh, you know what, I don't want to have a mortgage anymore, or I want to reduce my mortgage. And I'm especially when I'm talking to people in their mid 60s, let's say, and they're talking about downsizing, and they don't want to buy this. They're looking at maybe a $100,000 difference in what they could be buying, and they don't want to spend that extra $100,000. They don't want the mortgage. I say to them, look, you're gonna have an appreciating asset, and so yes, you're buying something that you're going to be paying more monthly for, and that is important. You've got to really make sure you've got a budget for that. But at the end of the day, when you go to sell that property, you're going to have more money in your pocket by spending the more money, and you're going to and been comfortable and happier for a longer period of time. So it's
Yeah.
not always about saving $50,000, because when it comes on the resale side of it, the quicker, the better location, all the fundamentals, you're better off spending more money for good quality any day of the week.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, Jen, do you have anything to say about interest rates?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm getting all these breaking news, with the tariffs. March 4th, apparently these tariffs are coming into play, this 25% tariff. So what's that going to do to interest rates? It's more than likely going to drive fixed rates up, but we'll have to see. I'll have more information and we'll see the effect of Tuesday when we chat this next Thursday. As well, the next date that we've got coming up is March 12th, which is when our Bank of Canada decides on the overnight lending rate, which affects variable rates. So,
Right.
What's the
lots of
prediction on
upcoming.
that?
It's been a 25.25% reduction to prime. That does, as of yesterday, like the TD economists, they were saying they're still saying no, it's going to drop another quarter percentage point, but it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah.
It could
You know
be
what?
it could be interesting. I'm just thinking you might have fixed rates here and variable here. There might be a huge spread.
Which would be back to the way it used to be pre-COVID.
Mm.
Right. Because
That's
it
the way
inverted.
it used to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one thing we don't often, I mean, you mentioned, but it's as important as the idea of a 0.25% reduction in the variable rate is the prime minus whatever
The spread
number.
off of prime. Yeah.
Spread. And so that's been fluctuating a bit too, right? And it's been tightening up
Yeah.
a bit. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So you could have a 0.525% drop in interest rates, but the spread tightens up, so you're really still in the same position you would have been before.
Yeah. And the
Can you
lenders
speak to
keep
that?
that pretty quiet. Yeah. That it's not it quietly happens, right? The reduction to the what you can get off of prime is reduced quietly. But for example, too, another important piece is that the TD, their prime rate is 0.15% higher than all the other banks. So when
Why
they
is that? Are they trying to lessen the product they're selling?
No, how they market it is their prime. They've got prime minus 0.4.
Oh.
But quiet, at the bottom it says, TD prime 0.15% higher than, prime rate, the Bank of Canada prime rate. So your discount, like from a marketing standpoint, it's smart. From
bait and switch,
net,
I call it.
Yeah.
So it's you're not comparing apples to apples, is what you're saying. It's apples to oranges. No. You got to really watch that.
Yes.
Again, all the reason for calling your mortgage broker, folks, and not just taking the rack rate from whatever somebody's offering you, and it looks good because they say this, but it's actually this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. God, that's People feel like that when they go to look at new construction and then they find out it's 5% more plus GST.
Right.
Like there
Right.
just needs to be regulation around this sort of stuff. That's false
Or
advertising.
consistency, yeah.
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 Consistency.
Well.
Thank you. No more regulation.
And I mean, I just did an analysis for a client that we're comparing 4 different lenders, comparing the 4 different interest rates that we're able to get for them, as well as the type of variable, whether it's a static payment or a non-static payment. So does your amortization change when prime rate changes? How is your penalty calculated? Is it based on the contract rate, so on what your actual rate is? Or is it based on the posted rate? All these fine print things are so important to explore when we're determining the best lender for you.
Yeah.
And just
Okay,
so you
guys,
know, although I'm experienced in these sort of things, Jen, we just renewed our mortgage, and I made Jen get on the phone and explain it all to me.
And I'm happy to do that. Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like we have our areas, but we don't know what we don't know, and it's really important to ask those questions and not just make the assumption. Worst kind of client is the one that thinks they know everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'd rather go into something saying, tell me what I don't know and help me through this, because you're going to learn something. You're going to be a little open-minded, and you're probably going to have a better outcome.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
keep telling them everything anyways, because I got to cover my own butt, even though they think they know everything. I don't know. They know
Yeah.
everything, and I keep talking.
Fair enough.
Anyway.
Okay, so next week we're going to be talking about the market update, and as well we're going to be talking about the announcement regarding the tariffs and see what actually, if it really happens. So Andrew will be here. Maybe we'll see. Andrew, how do people reach you?
Yeah, I'm at 250-360-6106. Email info@andrewplank.com, and I'm with the Vibe Collective at Royal LePage. And you can check our website at realvibe.ca.
I love that. Jen.
I am at 250-217-4925. I'm with Modern Mortgage Group. Email is jen@jenlow.ca, and my website is jenlow.ca.
All right, and you can reach me. I'm Jane Johnson with the Briar Hill Group. My number is 250-744-0775, and my website's briarhillgroup.com. You can watch these shows and more at victoriarealestateshow.com, and my Instagram is realtyteacher_remax_Victoria and Briar Hill Group. So thanks, everybody. Have a great week. It was so good to see you guys again. And as always, take care, everybody. Stay well.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks
Bye.
for watching and listening.
Bye.
Bye.